Do you sacrifice for women who barely acknowledge your existence? Are you a man who enables unacceptable female behavior? Have you ever thought, "You go, girl," when a woman divorces her husband? Do you find yourself commanding other men to man up? You might be suffering from chivalry derangement syndrome. Chivalry derangement syndrome, or CDS, is a life-threatening condition that causes men to perform illogical, expensive, and dangerous tasks for the benefit of ungrateful women. Men with CDS have been known to engage in ridiculous behavior such as opening doors, paying for dinners, supporting female supremacist government legislation, and trying to rescue single moms. If you think you may have CDS, you need to seek treatment immediately by taking the red pill. The red pill, developed by Dr. Paul Elam and his team of manhood experts, is a healthy dose of truth for all men living in this sick society. Regular consumption of the red pill will help you see women and the world around you as a wiser and stronger man. Short-term side effects may include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fits of justified anger, questioning everything you thought you knew about life, and laughing to keep from crying your eyes out. But no side effect can keep you from savoring the truth. Don't spend another day with CDS. Your money, your sanity, and your life are at stake. So call your physician today for a free sample of the red pill at avoiceformen.com.
All right, we are back, and Open War just wanted to say a few words. Open War, you're back on the air. Go ahead.
Well, all right, thank you, John. Well, I just wanted to wrap up with a closing remark, and that's the concept of methods and goals of political discourse. Often our opponents are going to try to smear us by saying that we support goals, which we frankly do not. Goals like, violence against women or imposing the patriarchy. Really, our main problem is a methodological complaint, though. We're completely opposed to the methods that feminists use. The use of state violence by proxy, the use of intimidation, of shaming language, and of a general culture of disrespect towards maleness. So we really need to keep focused on the methods. Our enemies are going to keep trying to change that debate to goals, and we can't allow them to shape the debate in that way. And beyond that, I
entirely agree.
Just wanted to say thank you, John, and you're doing great work.
All right, thanks very much. I actually entirely agree with what you said. We've got Typhon Blue on the phone now. Typhon Blue, go ahead.
Hi, John.
Hello.
I actually wanted to address your topic about the collapse of society by pointing out something that I've observed just from as a student of history. And generally, a social structure doesn't start to collapse until there's something to replace it. Because if there's nothing to replace it, people still invest in what exists. You know, the devil that you know is better than the devil that you don't know. So what I looked for is the beginnings of organizations that are sort of separate from like the central organizing principle in our current society. But also, there's another quote from another thinker that I can't remember at the moment. Karl Marx, and I know people will be like, oh, communism, right? But he said that what undermines a society usually is the very thing that society despises and refuses to acknowledge and look at. So I just thought I would throw that into the mix.
Well, that fits perfectly with what we're doing. We are despised, and they refuse to actually look objectively at what we're doing. There's a reason why there's a reason I played Fight the Power during one of the breaks on this show. Some people might be aware of something that's going on. It's not something I can actually talk about tonight on the show, but there will be article content up on A Voice for Men probably by tomorrow with some very interesting news. And, I know I'm being a complete attention whore by saying that without actually revealing what it is. And I apologize for that. For legal reasons, I can't say anything yet, but I think anybody returning to the site will be entertained and informed by the content that you will find there. Dr. T has phoned in, and I'm going to put Dr. T on the air now. Dr. T, welcome back to A Voice for Men.
Hey, John, how are you?
Excellent.
It's good to hear you running the show. It's great. I've tuned in the last 2 weeks. You're doing an amazing job. Enjoying it very much.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Not always. So, what would you like to talk about?
Well, the issue of this lens of victimhood, that when you create your own identity and you say, my identity, I would say my identity is partly I'm a man, partly I'm a white guy, partly I'm a middle-aged, balding computer programmer, but my identity is not a victim. I don't say that forms a component of who I am. I might find myself in a situation from time to time where I feel like I've been victimized. If I get mugged, for example, that's a real-life actual incidence of being a victim of a violent crime.
Yes,
but
it is.
It's not like when I write down what kind of a person I am, the word victim falls anywhere in there. But for those people who do, through this ideology, through the idea of either patriarchy, which holds women down and oppresses them, or the glass ceiling, or the wage gap, or the really preposterous idea of rape culture, that forms a component of identity, and because of that, all social transactions, all political narrative, all discussion and discourse is colored by this view of victimhood, and I think it causes people to be incapable of actually forming logical thoughts or engaging reason.
Well, I think that you have a point there. I also don't understand the allure of identifying oneself as a victim. I mean, if you're a victim, you've been hurt in some way. I don't want to be hurt. In fact, I think it's a pretty healthy human impulse to avoid pain and maximize pleasure. So, first off, to use not very clinical terms, I think people who willingly and proudly don the mantle of victim are pretty nuts. Second of all, victim, I mean, you know this, there's power in being a victim. Nothing is your fault.
I think that's the attraction.
People owe you, you know, and it's a way to never really have to take responsibility for yourself, because if things in your life aren't going the way you want them to, well, it's because you're a victim and somebody harmed you and it's their fault. And, everybody is in a position where they're having to make amends or restitution to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, give me free stuff quickly. And as soon as you're done that, give me more free stuff.
And if I act badly, tolerate it because I'm a victim, I was hurt, so that's why I'm acting crazy and whatever else, they might be doing. And I also think it's a way to stay in a really, I guess, arrested development is a phrase that comes to mind. These are. Oh, hello?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Tyson.
Oh, hi, Tyson.
Hey, Dr. Q. I was just asking if I was still on the air. Oh, I'm fine. I don't know how this is structured. It's a little amorphous, and I'm victimized by that. Damn it.
I'm a victim. No, I'm the victim. I'm a bigger victim than you.
I'm the special snowflake victim.
I am the special
as the agent of the patriarchy, I'm going to have to ask you to take a number.
Actually, I wanted to interject just a thought. We were talking about, the power that victimhood gives people, but there is a sacrifice to it, and I think that sacrifice is in every situation. When you're trained to see how you're going to be hurt by it, it really destroys your ability to effectively create any change in your life, to rise up to any situation, to do anything but, either make the most annoying sound you can to get someone to help you, or just be really appealing.
They're forfeiting their agency.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is why I view feminism as not just a hate movement against men, but it's actually a hate movement against women in a way that is, I will say, even more insidious and sinister than what feminism does to men, in that women who go along for this ride and buy into this, I'm a victim because of the patriarchy or the glass ceiling or the wage gap or whatever, pick quoting from a list, that in buying into this, they surrender their adult agency and they become wards of the state. This has a couple of consequences. One of them is a permanent psychological infantilization, that you lose the ability to have control or change over your own life. The other one is that in demanding redress of this victimhood, that I was oppressed or I was, disenfranchised by my wage gap or something, you're looking at an authoritarian force or an authoritarian organization or the government or this. In fact, you're going right back to the patriarchy, saying patriarchy step in with guys in uniforms and guns to do violence against somebody or to point a gun at somebody and take their money or their rights away.
Or their children.
Or their children, or their careers, or their lives, or their freedom. And so when you have... Go ahead, Tyson.
Sorry, I think there's another side to this. I think that there's a lot of men or white knights who are quite addicted to this idea of this inflated agency that women's victimhood gives them, that they have control over all of these amorphous evils that, they really don't. And no human group really has any control over it. But that concept really gives them an inflated sense of agency over the world in their life. And I think that in a lot of ways they're addicted to that. And it's almost like this.
I think it's an illusory agency.
Oh yes,
though.
definitely.
When women are raised to the status of victimhood, it actually puts men in danger.
Oh,
because who are they being victimized by? Men.
Yeah, exactly. For the guys who are drinking the Kool-Aid and saying publicly, standing up and saying, "Oh yeah, those bad men, those are the bad men. I'm a good man. Look at me. Look how good I am. Look at me lying at your feet and whipping myself with a knotted rope. And I'll go and I'll punish those bad men." They are taking the agency from women by acting on their behalf. They are enacting violence. They're using force or muscle or appropriating people's rights from them. But for those men, they're driven to differentiate themselves. We're looking at reproductive differentiation, men looking for female approval. The problem is, although they will crawl over each other's bodies to look how much of a good man I am. I'm even more of a good man than that other one who I beat with a rope. These guys ultimately are even more disposable than the bad men because from a female point of view... you're looking at a Tom Matlack, or even more, you're looking at a gay Arjuna, or what's his friend's name, Arjuna Ardag, or Gay Hendricks. You're looking at these guys who make themselves repulsive because their carrion eater opportunism is naked for anyone with social perception to see. I'm not the most socially adept guy, but it's pretty obvious to me. I have a friend who I showed
I'm not very socially adept either, John, so we're in fine company.
I think I have to join those ranks as well. I wonder if there's a reason, sort of a commonality here. People who tend to be less socially adept and become a little bit more intellectually more focused on the intellectual, so we're not quite as motivated by emotional arguments, and then we start looking at the things that everybody believes and realize that most of it is based on nothing, logic.
Based on a mythology,
you'll appreciate this, Typhon, because it's a fairy tale. I call it the kid who points out that the emperor is naked-itis, and I have been suffering from that for years, much to the chagrin of some of my professors.
I think I have that syndrome as well.
I've always been the bad kid. In fact, my extended family uses me as the example. You don't want to end up like John.
Because do you get this charge, Dr. T, that you're in it for a positive attention or approval?
I've gotten that. I've been told I have daddy issues. I've been called a bitter lesbian misogynist, whatever the hell that is. They can say whatever they want.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It doesn't make it true, but it's sad that they, that they have to go there. And
well,
go ahead.
I think the reason why they believe what they believe are based on emotional arguments. So they turn it around and they project that and say, well, what you believe must also be based on an emotional argument.
Mhm. I think that's some of it, and I think most of the stuff I present on my site is it comes out of logic, reason, facts, things I've read, things that are documented, and so what do? They resort to name calling. That's not an argument.
Mm-hmm.
That's not discourse. It's just name calling.
Mhm. Exactly. Anyway, that was a digression. I'm sorry, JTO.
Yeah, no problem. I'm quite happy to let you carry the show because I'm a lazy bastard.
Not true.
Are you sure you like where I carry it too, though?
You're a prolific bastard.
Yeah, totally.
You're always publishing something.
Yeah, I know. I should probably get back to that. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, and I think I raised this briefly, I'm going to mention something going on in the political sphere right now. As I'm sure many people know, Rick Santorum, about a month and a half ago, was talking about using drone strikes to kill Iranian scientists. And he mentioned that President Obama has done this against American citizens. Now, we have Anwar al-Awlaki, who was a member of the Taliban, but we also have an American 16-year-old who was his son murdered by a drone strike. And Eric Holder, 2 days ago, came out and said that the use of, he said, extrajudicial killings, I think he said executions, but the correct word is murder. That's what they're actually doing. Mm-hmm. This satisfies the requirements in the Constitution of due process of law by having these decisions be made in closed-door meetings of the executive branch of government. A closed-door meeting of the executive branch of government satisfies the requirement of due process of law. Now, this is so totally at odds with anything I can wrap around the word reason or logic or defensible or ethical or that makes even the slightest bit of sense. And yet we don't have hardly any public outrage. Where there's a few editorial pieces, there's one in the New York Times, there's one in the Washington Post, we do not have the general public repudiating the judicial branch of government or the executive branch of government. In a tiered society, when we have the people at the top tier flagrantly basically endorsing murder, renouncing the rule of law, saying that this is no longer a country governed by laws. It's now a country governed by bandits who will murder whoever they feel like, and they'll tell you whether or not that follows the rule of law. Don't worry your pretty little heads, my darlings. I'll kill which of you I decide.
I'm protecting you, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, we're going to have to kill you, but it's for your own good, so don't worry. Do we even have a country anymore? Like, do we bother to vote, or do we just scatter to the winds and hopefully they don't come and get us? The situation is so ridiculous that no amount of hyperbole on my part can really encompass it.
I think essentially what we have now is it's just the changing of the executive corporate shill.
I've been saying for a while that the politicians, even the top tier politicians, are essentially the salesmen for the bankers and the corporations who run them. The possibility of an economic collapse where
I was just going to say, Stephen Colbert, I think it was a few years ago, was he running for president, and it was sponsored by Doritos. I mean, are we that far off from having that be the reality? Rick Smith, brought to you by Mutual of Omaha. I mean, with Citizens United, we're already heading that way, aren't we?
The last election cycle, I know that one of the late-night TV hosts said that he was voting for President Sanjaya.
I remember that.
I don't know if we should end the show before we devolve into being completely silly. I don't know where we can go from here.
But it's not silly. I think we're on that slippery slope.
Oh, no. Dr. T, we're not on a slope. We're in free fall.
Okay, we're bobsledding. We're the Jamaican bobsled team heading down the slope.
Or we've jumped off the slope.
We are in free fall. Now, one of the things we were talking earlier in the show about becoming self-sufficient or becoming an agricultural economy. I'm not sure how many people have been following it, but the organic self-sufficient farming movement, which is happening in the United States and North America.
Yep, I'm participating.
There is a tendency of, or there's a regular practice that enforcement agencies from the Food and Drug Administration go to the sites of private farmers, organic farmers, basically producing their own food, taking control of their own means of production so that they are no longer they're no longer dependent on the state systems of distribution, and going and destroying their food, basically pouring bleach into stored milk, pouring poison into vegetable patches.
Is that related to what Monsanto does? They've patented all of the produce that they grow, but when you have two fields side by side, things are going to cross-pollinate, and when that happens, they essentially try to run the small farmer out of business.
They prosecute the farmer for stealing.
Is that the same thing,
I think that does happen. What I'm talking about is a different issue, is people growing their own organic crops, which are not in violation of Monsanto's licenses. And by the way, those licenses are ridiculous. Those are absurd.
Yeah, they are. But
these are people who, because, for example, milk has to be pasteurized in most states in the United States. You're not allowed to own non-pasteurized milk. But there's a movement for raw milk. There's a movement of people who think that raw milk is much better for you, and so they do their own below-board raw milk trading. And the FDA, when they find out, they go and they destroy anybody who has stored milk or anybody who has cows or stored food. They go and they literally pour bleach into it to render it impossible to be used as human food.
I was not aware that was happening.
Yeah, there's a proviso with that. Let me point something out with what the FDA is doing. Okay.
Okay.
You can grow anything the heck you want as long as it's legal, and use it for your own consumption. However, the moment it trades either through money or barter is the moment that the FDA and other authorities will get involved. So as long as you're not trading, they can't do anything. Now, you can grow it and give it away, but the moment you try to sell it is the moment they'll step in and attempt to shut you down.
I think they've also tried to persecute people who give it away too.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure that they've also tried to stop people giving away food.
Yeah, they've tried that with limited success. But I will tell you that the statutes on the book specifically say trade or for money or barter, that type of thing, is prohibited with food products like that.
So you will eat only the pills that we give you. I see. So I see that. See, I was looking at this from a self-sufficiency point of view and thinking, how outrageous is this? But what James has said makes a little bit more sense to me. It's not. I mean, it's still It's still grotesquely unethical. It's still monstrous behavior that you're destroying food. But what they're actually doing, based on what James has just said, is preventing anybody from working outside of their economic system. That they want to control the money. That if you decide that the fiat system of currency is not a system that you like, that you want to work within that system, they will literally destroy your food and force you to obtain food through using fiat currency or through trading food through fiat currency. Now, going back to what Dr. T was saying a few minutes ago, the issue of Monsanto's registered trademark patented foods that you have a grain that is resistant to whatever chemical fertilizer, it's resistant to this or that, and the DNA of the grain crop that you're growing blows accidentally across the road and into the next farmer's field, who is an organic farmer. I have read about Monsanto suing farms into extinction based on accidental cross-pollination of Monsanto registered trademark DNA manufactured food. However, and I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure how to fight that at a legal level, or how to approach that at a structural level, that doesn't become take away the gun, because that's really working with the gun. However, the fact that there is now a legal precedent for lawsuits against the use of genetic material without license, because that's what they're going after these farmers for. A Monsanto field blows grain across the field and into an organic farmer's field, and then Monsanto sues that organic farmer because the next season some of his crop was accidentally cross-pollinated with Monsanto's trademarked DNA material. We take this, and I'm just making this up as I go along, we take this principle and we look at human reproduction. There is a growing trend in Western countries of paternal fraud. Women who get pregnant or without the permission of the man, without consent, without legal consent, or they sabotage birth control, or it's an accidental pregnancy, the condom broke, or sometimes, in some cases, sperm is harvested from a used condom, and that guy, because he has no legal reproductive rights, he's now on the hook for 18 to 20 years of child support. I've always looked at that as slavery. But here's a different way to look at it. She's using his DNA material without license. It's a license violation.
Patent your swimmers, fellas. Copyright.
I saw that coming. That you were going to bring it back like that.
You're not allowed to crank out a child without my permission, and if you do, I will use the Monsanto lawsuits as legal precedent.
I love it. That's brilliant.
You really went. You did quite an arc there, but you brought it back to topic.
All the way around the dance floor with that one.
Yeah, all the way. I'm more like all the way around the orbit. But yeah,
but that's not. I think it makes sense to me.
Yeah, no, it totally does make sense, but it was just a long trip. I'm not. I'm just joking.
Life is all about the journey, Typhon.
It's all in the journey. It's all in the process.
Yeah.
Well, you'd think that could be a precedent, but I doubt it will ever be.
Well,
considered.
I don't know. I mean, the legal precedent is there. It's the only difference is that we're looking at a grain crop versus a human being. But the DNA matching technology used to identify a grain crop, like, hey, I'm a Monsanto enforcement officer, and I come to your farm and I steal some grain and I run it through my little DNA sampler, and I go, oopsie-doo, you've got Monsanto crops there. You're going to have to pay me a $10,000 fine per acre or some ridiculous fine. The technology is already developed. Monsanto has paid for it. So we don't have to develop a technology here. DNA is not. You don't need a different material. It's just biological material that you sample and do a DNA analysis, a match analysis.
I imagine men would have to patent their DNA first.
Yeah, but this is not that difficult. Not that difficult. There is a $125 kit that you can buy to do a DNA analysis of your own propensity to hereditary diseases. Now, this is a consumer product where you do your own DNA analysis, which means they can do a DNA signature of a human being. $125, not only do they do the signature, they look at matches for genetic markers for hereditary diseases. The consumer technology is there, and the legal precedent is there in the agricultural application. This is not a giant step to tie these two things together. I think I know what my next AVfM article is going to be.
I see a campaign.
Yeah, as do I.
And I think it makes perfect sense. Although I was reading over on R.K. Hendricks' Facebook page. Apparently, in the state of Idaho has just passed a law that's actually favorable for men regarding paternity fraud, meaning that if the man can prove it after the fact, 5, 6, 10, 15 years, he is entitled to go after the woman who perpetrated the paternity fraud for the child support he paid. Now, whether or not that will actually be enforced, I don't know, but it's
well,
it's
I think
passed.
it probably. My understanding of the way these laws are both interpreted and enforced, I mean, it might be interpreted. He might be able to get himself out from under the financial servitude of paying for somebody else's child. But let's say that 12 to 15 years of child support has already been extracted from him. I mean, how many $100,000 is that?
Well, hey, maybe there should be maybe she should go to jail and work it off, just like deadbeat dads do.
Oh, but Dr. T, didn't you know that debtors' prisons are illegal and we got rid of those 100 years ago?
I've taken the red pill, JTO. What can I say?
Yeah, I'm actually not that optimistic that anybody's ever going to get their money back because the family courts in particularly are partially funded through funds appropriated through child support payments.
I agree. I'm very skeptical about that, but I think getting it on the law books is a good.
Yeah,
good first
getting
step.
out from under is enough. I think enough for now as a political goal, as a human rights goal. Getting these guys to get paid back may be outside the realm of possibility, but at least we have a thwart. We have a legal thwart. And what one state does, another will do soon.
Let's hope.
Yeah. So I think I've just about said everything that I want to say tonight. Dr. T, do you have anything more you want to throw in the pot?
No, it's been a fascinating show. Thank you for inviting me to call in. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and you as well, Typhon Blue.
Oh, thank you.
So usually Paul, at this point, reminds me that I'm supposed to tell everybody there's something that they're supposed to take, and I'll throw this over to Dr. T this week. Dr. T, do you remember what it is that everybody's supposed to take?
What could it be? What could it be? I know. The red pill!
Take the red pill. Good night, everybody, and thanks very much for listening.
Night all.